Hi everyone, it's Heidi from flutterbyheidi.co.uk. I'm Heidi Smith. I'm an independent Stampin' Up demonstrator based in the United Kingdom, and today I'm working with a lovely stamp set and suite called Happiness Abounds. So this is the bundle, so this is the stamp set and coordinating dies, and you can see here you've got beautiful floral images and sentiments, and the dies cut out the floral images, those big three images, the four main floral images, the two sets of leaves, and then you've got a lovely trellis background here and two accent dies, and you can see I've used that here, and it gives that lovely little notebook tear off bit. Years ago there used to be a punch that used to do this, but this is just perfect for adding that little accent to the top. It also comes with some lovely paper, so let's just have a look at that with you. The beautiful Hues of Happiness paper. Here's the Hues of Happiness paper. I've kept it as 12 by 12 because the variation across the page is absolutely beautiful, and you wouldn't get that if I cut it down. So you've got Coastal Cabana, Daffodil Delight, Flirty Flamingo, Fresh Freesia, Gorgeous Grape, Granny Apple Green, Mango Melody, Melon Mambo, Mossy Meadow, Night of Navy and Pool Party in there. 2 sheets each of the 6 designs, and I'm just going to turn each of those over for you. As you can see, big floral images and then a lovely rainbow on the reverse. Rainbow of small flowers with our lovely acrylic rainbow. On the reverse, a lovely Night of Navy with beautiful colours in there. And the Pool Party coming through with the Melon Mango shades of pink. Lovely brights on the reverse. And then here the Fresh Freesia, the Gorgeous Grape, Night of Navy, Coastal Cabana and Pool Party. And there. And then finally our roses, pinks through to yellows, and the same on the reverse. And the card I'm making is it's a centre step card, but it's an easy version. So it is just 2 pieces of card. So there's lots of ways you could use the same format in this direction, but I thought this was a great one to use. And I've just used a single piece of DSP here, a little bit more here, and then I've decorated that back panel so you've got somewhere for you to write your message as well. So I've very much taken the inspiration from those papers. So here I've used Melon Mambo and the Flirty Flamingo, and you'll see the paper has kind of got that rainbow going through to the yellow, and a bit of Granny Apple Green. So I thought I'd go purple for the next one. So let's get started then. First of all, we're going to need to obviously do a little bit of stamping, and I have prepared some of the images already, but let's get going with a bit of basic white. So you're going to just need, I'm just using an offcut of basic white here. I'm going to use my Gorgeous Grape, and as I've said, some Granny Apple Green. You'll want a couple of blending brushes and a blender pen as well. So that's how I've kind of created the images. It is a photopolymer stamp set, so you know the next thing I'm going to be saying is we need to get some photopolymer out. What I do need to do is cut my layer though as well, so I'll cut that from this piece of paper first. So the panel you're going to want is 9.5 by 7.5 centimetres. So that's my back panel, so that's how I'm going to stamp my floral image, and I should just have enough there for to stamp my main images as well. So if we get that stamp, that floral image out, yeah, that's perfect. So add it to your block. I'm using a big D block here, and you're just going to stamp that image in my Gorgeous Grape, and then because it's already stamped off, I'm going to add this kind of, it's a lovely say anemone image, which I just think is so pretty, so that can go to one side for a little bit later. I'm then going to use my Gorgeous Grape again for a couple of these, for one of these flowers, and then you'll obviously want to do multiples of these. I'm going to use my Granny Apple Green. This paper is very much focused on the brights. If you prefer something, you probably want to go for sort of the subtles, something a little bit softer if you want. So those are the 4 images that I'm going to be working with. I'm also going to be stamping my image on that piece of die cut card. So I've simply taken a piece of card and I've used this, and this is the way they say, this is the way I found worked best. I just attached that. If you imagine that this is what it is, I just popped it across the top there, held it in place with a little bit of tape, and what you might want to do is pop that tape round the back, stop it moving about. So if I can show you there, like that. Keeps it nice and square, and then just pop that through your die cutting machine, and if I show you on this cutting plate here, I pop it through at an angle. You can see here, if you pop it through this way, you'll get a lot of bowing. If you pop it through straight through the edge, depending on what your orientation, so like that, so if it's going through your machine that way, that will bow. If it goes through that way, you sometimes struggle to get a good cut. Whereas if you pop it through at an angle, one, you get pressure rolling over it constantly, and it does stop any bowing on your dies. Well, it minimises bowing. Inevitably, with sort of long straight dies, you may find you get a little bit of bowing on those. But I usually sort of put them through upside down a couple of times. So when it comes out, you see that'll come out, and those are just ready to go through. This is sort of just about 3 inches wide, so about sort of 7.5–8 centimetres in width. So we've got a piece there. So all I'm going to do now is just stamp my sentiment. As I say, this is the way I found it. It worked for me. So you watch, I'll make a mess of it now. So standing up, ink up your sentiment, and if I try and get everything at least reasonably square, and then I just popped that there. So I die cut it, then I stamped it, then I'm going to come in with my trimmer, and I just popped that in at just over sort of 1.5 centimetres, and just have a look down your track and make sure that you're not getting any of that wording getting trimmed off. And then again, you just need a small piece of so I'm just literally just, you can see, grabbing some scraps. And so you want a piece that is obviously going to be less than that, so probably only a kind of centimetre wide. So again, if I cut it if I cut it longer than I need it, and on something like this, just pop it in. And if you haven't got a piece that's, so just line it up, and don't worry about it being absolutely square, because you can always adjust that. So what I'm going to do is just take those bits of tape off. As I should have said, obviously it will cut through the bits of tape at the top, because that top edge actually cuts through. So you don't have to line it up exactly, because it will always cut through to the right to square it off at the top. So just put some adhesive on the back, bring in your piece of card, and then just line that up. Just to give a little border, and then you can simply come in with your snips and trim that off. And if you want to trim the other end off, you can as well. So there's our sentiment. So again, I will keep scraps like this in my with my stamp and die set, so that I've always got something handy if I want to, and pop those away. So now what I want to do is do some colouring of these images. So as I've said, I've got a blending brush here. And I do keep a blending brush for kind of my colour sort of groups. It means buying a couple of packs, but I just keep one, sort of one for purples, one for greens, and that way I find I'm not having to wash them as much, but they do wash really well. So I'm dipping it in the pad and then simply starting the middle and working my way out. Anemones, you know, are quite strong colours, and obviously you actually want that sort of darker one, whereas normally I would say come in from the side to get some of that excess. I'm happy to have that depth of colour in the middle there. I'm going to do the same with my lighter flower, but actually I'm going to use the depth in there and then just be a bit lighter. Now if you wanted to, you could use fresh freesia for this as well, so just keeping or you can just obviously use, you can see the gorgeous grape there just to create a light colour. Make sure I don't put that in the wrong ink pad. So coming in with my garden green. And again, if you get variation on these, you know, leaves are by their nature variegated. Now I'm just going to come in now with my blender pen. So I said grab a blender pen, and with those leaves, I'm just moving the colour a little bit with that blender pen. So it'll pick up a bit of colour from the outside of the leaf, and it'll just add a bit more texture. Then on the reverse, I've already put a little bit of ink just onto a piece of Perspex tubing here. And I'm just going to come in and just add a little bit on some of these. So I tend to use those out bits of the petals, you can see there, to add a little bit of depth. And just sort of, as I said, it will pick up a bit of ink. Obviously I'm picking some up from my ink pad there, and it adds a bit of depth of shading, but then you can just come in around the edges of the petals and it will pick up a little bit of colour from that stamped image, so it makes a change rather than stamping in memento and then colouring in. I rather like this for sort of flowers. And as I said, I'm just using that stamped image outline to create a little bit. I'm not, you know, there are people out there who can create the most realistic flowers out of these. I'm no artist, I'm sad to say, but I do feel like I'm kind of getting there with this, because it just moves it around and gives it a little bit more depth like that. So as I say, not perfect, but you know, then you can do the same, but this time I'm not dipping it in the ink again because I'm keeping the lighter shade on this. So I'm just moving that ink that's been blender brushed onto there and the ink that's from the outline of that image, like so. And I say you can do as much or as little as you like, but blender brushes are fantastic for that. Now we want to die cut those. So again, with die cutting an image, we're just going to line up our die until we can just see the outline all the way around on the inside, using a little tape there. The same with these leaves. Now with these, hopefully I've spaced these out well enough that I can get all 4 dies onto there. I might, just about. What you don't want to do is for those to, no, I'm not going to risk that, because that's either going to move it or it's going to overlap it, and I don't want to risk that. Let's have a look on the flower, is that the same? No, I'm okay on the flower, just about. What you don't want to do is damage your dies, you know, they're an investment and you want them to last. So the last thing I want is for any damage, and for the sake of popping them through, you know, a second pass of your die cutting machine, it really, you know, isn't worth taking any extra time. So there we go. So I'll now pop that through, you know, or I would normally put that through to get some more die cut images. But of course, being a Blue Peter moment, here's some I prepared earlier. So I've got some leaves here, which I've cut, and I've got some of those flowers as well. So we've got a real sort of choice of images there. So now what we want to do is actually create our card base to put these on. So those of you that watch me will know that one of the things I do is I create a template. So retired cardstock, you know, it makes good use of it, and it means that I can hopefully get the measurements right. And it does help me work out both centimetres and inches generally. But, you know, sometimes it doesn't quite. But it's a way, I store those in a folder then, so that they're always to hand when I want to come and do another card of a similar nature. So because I'm working with the purples, I've gone for Gorgeous Grape and Fresh Freesia because I think that's a lovely combination. So I think what I'm going to do is probably, let's have a look. I think probably you want a piece, basically 2 half sheets of. You can either use the same colour or contrasting colour. As you saw with my original one, I actually used basic white on this to make a bit of a change as well. So that's another thing that you can do. So which will I go for? I'm going to go for, yeah, let's go for the, I'm going to go for that, for the Fresh Freesia for the base. So for this base then, you want it to be 21 by 14.5 centimetres. So that's half a sheet. There are variations of the measurements out there for those of you who work with US cardstock. So this is making a slightly different sized base. You're then going to score at 3 centimetres, which I've done on the right there, at 6 centimetres. And then at 13.5 centimetres. And you're going to concertina fold that. So that's fold with those score lines to start off with. That's where you've stretched your fibres, so you want that to be the first way of folding them. And then that front one, just fold it back on itself as well. So that's going to create our first piece. Okay, like that. Your second piece, you want again 21 centimetres, but just cut it to 8.5. And then you're going to score that very simply at 10.5 centimetres. Like so. So that's going to go. We then want a layer for the front of that. So I'm just going to grab a piece of Fresh Freesia. And that layer is going to be 10 by 8 centimetres. And then I want some basic white and some DSP as well for that. So I want a piece that is 9.5 by 7.5, which we've got for the back. Oh, and I want it's DSP. I want. Yeah, there we go. Okay, so that'll be my 9.5 on there. So by 7.5 by 9.5. And I like this because it's kind of got that lovely rainbow stuff background. So that's going to go onto the front there. As you can see, we've already stamped that piece for the back with our lovely anemones. So that's going to go onto the reverse. Then I'm just going to, I did want another layer of Fresh Freesia, so another one that's 10 by 8. You can see now, this is why I prepare things sometimes in advance of my videos. It just makes life an awful lot easier to remember what it is that I need. And then the final piece that you want. So this is the piece that's going to go across the middle there. And this piece is 7 by 14 centimetres. So it's already 7 centimetres. And I'm just going to trim that to 14. Oh, which I already have. Okay. Now, if you wanted to, you could, in effect, you could actually just add some small pieces if you wanted to. So by that, I mean that if you wanted to, you could split that and just put a piece on each side. But I'm just going to go for the whole range. Where I've cut this as well, I'm just going to burnish that edge a little bit. I've got a fresh blade in there and it does sometimes bring the edge up. And again, flat card means flat gluing. So just our Stampin' seal for that. And just pop that straight across the centre of that panel. So now you've adhered that, what we're going to do is put our panels onto our centrepiece as well. So again, just a bit of Stampin' seal. You could use Tombow if you prefer. It does depend on your preference for adhesive. So this is going to be the back. That I do love gorgeous grape and fresh freesia. It is one of my, I think, I'm a bit of a purple girl. You might have gathered that. Although purples and pinks tend to be my go-to. I don't use yellows or oranges very much, but I don't have much of that in my wardrobe either. So I guess it kind of reflects what you want. I love this paper on the front, but I just felt that was going to be too busy with those flowers. Just too distracting. So I wanted something that was lighter. Much as I love that paper, I think for me, I probably would want to use a smaller piece of it if I was using it on a card. Okay, so there's the front piece. Now I'm actually going to glue this in place now. So I'm just going to reinforce those layers. Now, the way I find easiest to line this up, I'm actually going to use a bit of Tombow. That gives me some wiggle room. And I just want it on that bottom section. And you're just going to line that up at 3 centimetres in from the side there. So I'm just taking my ruler and popping this in at 3 centimetres to get that nice and square. Fold my card up and that's why I want the wiggle room on there, because I don't want that coming apart. And then you can use just Stampin' seal on the back there, or Tombow, either or. But you can then fold that down and you know that's going to be nice and square and in place, she says, hopefully. Okay, so now we're ready to decorate. So this does open out flat, which makes life easier for us. Well, it makes life easier for me. I'm just going to shape these flowers. So I'm taking a bone folder and just adding some dimension to those. With my leaves, I'm going to do the same. So these are my leaves. And then I just want to build up those leaves, sort of image on the side here. So I want to make sure I've got plenty of space as well for my sentiment, so I'm going to pop that on there. I'm not going to stick it down just yet, but I want to make sure that I don't put that flower right slap bang where my image is going to be. And again, totally optional with the flowers if you want to add dimension or not. What I didn't add on my previous one was a bit of sparkle, so I might do that. And with the leaves, I'm actually curling the leaves up in the opposite direction. So I'm sort of stretching the fibres and then just turning them over so they curl up a little bit. Just don't be too forceful on the leaves. You might tear them. Ask me how I know. So There we go. Okay. Right, so now it is grabbing our dimensionals. So I'm using the large dimensionals here, and I'm going to start with this larger flower image and pop that in there, just slightly hanging off the side. And I'm adding them into the centre because that gives me plenty of space to add my other flowers and my leaves around it. So add a leaf and then a flower, I think, there. So I'm going to add this flower and then add that one on the top. Yeah. So I'm just tucking the one edge underneath the flower, the other one over the top. And then pop another one on the other side. And then I can come in and just adding that bit of green just brightens that up slightly. And with these I do tend to use a bit of Tombow. So out comes the Tombow. And let's just add a little, just lift it up and pop it in until it's not sort of overhanging the edge of your card. You obviously want to make sure it still fits in the envelope. So these bigger sprigs are rather nice there. I'm just going to pop one more just behind this leaf here, this flower, just to act as a little bit of an accent. And in fact I might just, no, that's probably sufficient. I probably would have used a smaller sprig. And then all we need to do is pop some dimensionals on the back of our sentiment, pop that up. And again you could add, if I happen to have them to hand, a few iridescent gems to this as well. A happy birthday. And if I grab my take your pick, which is just there. And another couple just in there. And there we have our pretty centre step card. Gorgeous grape, melon mambo. Which do you prefer? You know me, I usually ask you the question, which colourway? I think both work really well. I love the way this actually picks up the granny apple green. I perhaps should have put a bit of yellow on this one. But yeah, all good fun, and hopefully the recipients will enjoy them too. Thanks for watching, and please do hit the subscribe button on my video, and if you haven't subscribed already, and if you'd like to make a purchase from my shop for any of these items, just pop along to the description bar below this video and you'll find links to all of them, or on my blog at flutterbyheidi.co.uk you'll find links there, or my Stampin' Up shop at heidismith.stampinup.net. Thanks for watching. Bye.